a special call meeting for 3 items on the agenda. And at this time, we're going to skip the invocation and the flag and go right to item number 1. Mr. McRae and Mr. Pilgrim, would you please come forward and tell the city council about your law firm? And the pamphlet that you sent me, I got it Monday morning. I got a copy. Everybody has had it in their possession, and along with the other stuff, and they've had your website. So, floor is yours, sir.
Well, I think since you've got that information, there's a pretty good a bit of information about our law firm there, and about me and Kerry. We have 2 other lawyers who do municipal work, and we represent a lot of governments, do a big government practice within the firm. And the mayor had called me, I guess, about a week or so ago to consider the position. Of course, I wanted to talk to you all about it, obviously. And GMA had recommended that. I think Mr. Brackman told me he'd been in my classes before. I hope that wasn't too bad. It was only an hour. Hopefully that hour wasn't too bad. But I've been practicing for 41 years and been involved in municipal law as a part of my practice for that entire period of time. Kerry is, as I was a kid, we recruited him to come back to Cedartown. He was valedictorian of his class, and my daughters graduated and went all the way through school with Kerry. And she said, he's the smartest young man I've ever seen, so we got to get him back here where I got somebody smart to help me. So I do have, so that's why I brought him here. He does, and has been for doing the work for the city of Cedartown. I really hadn't been to the city commission meeting in Cedartown.
I've been the principal attorney handling Cedartown for about 4 years now. So I go to all their meetings, handle industrial development matters, done some work for the fair amount of work for City of Rockmart, Polk School District, Russell County Development Authority. Done some big projects for Tallapoosa too, which y'all may know about. So.
We just did the expansion for the city of Tallapoosa a couple of years ago, I guess. Kerry did most of the complicated work on, I don't know if you've ever had any municipal bond work in Temple where we've had industry coming in. So that's another reason I got Kerry. He does all that sort of stuff. I don't have anything to say other than I'm glad to answer any questions. You've got my resume there. I did want to say one thing, I guess, especially if I'm out in the audience and I see 2 lawyers with suits come in, I'm thinking we're fixing to spend taxpayers' money on something. So I think we probably ought to have that conversation. We normally we don't charge a retainer. We do in Rockmart and Cedartown for a different reason, because we do go to meetings and we usually spend that retainer money, but we don't charge anybody else a retainer. We charge by the hour. Our municipal rate is $155 an hour, as I told the mayor. You've been paying, as I understand it, or budgeting $3,000 a month. What I said in my letter to you is I'd rather you not pay us by the month, but pay us by the hour. If Temple doesn't have a lot of work to do, you don't need to be paying $3,000 for legal work. And if we start seeing that you got a lot of stuff to do and it's going to be over $3,000, we got to talk to you about budgetary matters. But from representing governments for 40 years, the one thing Mr. Osborne will know is a manager will call me and say, you know, we're not going to keep on paying this big legal bill, so you're going to have to cut back, or whatever it may be. So I just want to tell you that we just don't feel we don't want to charge a retainer. We want to come on and it costs Temple money. And I would hope that perhaps if you're not doing a lot of things, that you wouldn't be budgeting and paying that $3,000 a month.
But will we have a representative from the firm at our meetings?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And let me say this, we'll have somebody at every meeting you tell us to be at the meeting. I started telling a lot of governments, when you're talking about budget matters, you're talking about what you're going to do about finance, which you don't want me talking about finance, or my children, especially when they're in college. So if you're going to be doing those kind of things, I don't know that you need special meetings that you're going to just be having a work session and talk about strategic planning, let's say. But we'll be here at every regular meeting unless again, the council and the mayor says we want to save that $155 an hour because we don't have much on the agenda.
Mr. Walker?
I just have a couple of things. I will say that I'm impressed with what we were presented by the mayor. I've read all through it, and I was very impressed with that. I just had a couple of questions, if you don't mind. Do you charge for travel time?
No, sir. Good question. You may be, you relate to the McCrae's, what my daddy would have been asking. No, sir, we don't charge travel time, not for anything like this.
And as a rule, dealing with municipal government, do you normally just have like one point of contact, like would it be the city administrator? I'm satisfied you probably don't take phone calls from like council members or department heads and all that. I would think you would go through the city administrator.
Would be my preference. Yes, sir. So another thing that happens with the billing, if somebody calls and then I bill and they say, wait a minute now, we got 5 people talking to them about the same thing and we get charged for it.
So if we had a council member that called you or called your firm and kept you tied up for 2 or 3 hours at a time, it would show up on the bill.
Well, let's go back to the McCrae, and if it takes more than 2 or 3 minutes, I'm gonna be calling Mr. Osborne or somebody saying, wait a minute now, I've been hearing from X for a while, and I don't think you know, again, I think this is something that's y'all's point of contact, normally through your administrator and through the mayor and council, so that, I think that's a really good question. And I think Kerry would agree, we normally talk with the administrator and not with individual council members. And again, nothing wrong with that, but I just wouldn't want to be billing that and get into that situation that we're charging for time if it's not an official matter.
That would be my preference too, to handle it that way.
And frequently, we have a need to talk to those other folks if that's what y'all want us to do. I mean, obviously, we got to talk to the police chief and fire chief about things from time to time, but it's a lot easier to deal with when it comes to
On a daily basis, you wouldn't want to be hearing from 2 or 3 department heads and a couple of council members.
And we normally, I think Kerry, I think would agree, we normally do not talk to department heads unless, say, either Mr. Osborne or the mayor has told you to call. Just taking that to word, but, and we, you know, I think the exception would be the chief of police. We at times have issues associated with something that may happen from a litigation standpoint or whatever, where we got to talk to the chief.
Have you ever represented any of the election officials here?
No, sir. No, I don't know anybody.
That's all my questions, sir.
Sir.
I'm satisfied.
Ms. Ransom?
That's got one statement.
Mr. Simmons, you're next.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you want to go any further?
Good.
I just had a quick one, just before you leave, we got a charter that's a little different. We got the administrator versus the manager, so make sure if we do this, that y'all get a copy right here.
Is online?
Well, yes and no. There's the one that I've had to pull up before that the state had pulled up for me wasn't exactly like the one that's signed, so I would probably go with the one that's signed. Our web page needs some work, it needs some cleaning up.
Mr. Osborne, y'all part of municipal code service?
Nothing's been uploaded for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do about, like, if you have an ordinance you pass about something, how is that normally, you got, will you keep your ordinances, is that kind of how you're going to do it?
City clerk responsible for the ordinances, but for the last, going back 3 to 4 years, it's been a long time since the Municipal Code Corporation brought things up to date. That's one thing on our agenda to get done. It's needed very, very much.
Well, I was talking to the clerk in Rock Martin, you probably, or your clerk probably know this too. One of the problems you got is they charge so much money now for doing the update. A lot of times we'll keep the ordinances together for a period of time before we send it to them to have them do it, because they charge by the page and they want you to do everything electronically now. So that's something that we would want to do, but let's suppose that we want to kind of update things. And let's go to part 2 of your question. We're going to kind of update where you are from a temporal standpoint. One of the things I think we want to see is what we have, and then see what kind of project we talking about. You know, we talking about on a 1 to 10, a 9, or 1 to 10, a 2?
It was 10 back.
10 would be on the
Scale.
bad side, yeah. Yeah, and
We'll
so-
be looking at that.
And because a couple of times with smaller cities, we've gone in, our role has been to kind of, like you come in on a special project and help, and kind of get things in better order. But again, you got limited resources and you want to get in there and spend a bunch of money doing it either, so we got to be careful about that. And to answer your question, I want to see what you have really at no charge, because you don't need to be paying us. Thankfully, we've been very fortunate as a law firm. You don't want to be paying us to educate us, so to speak.
So it's fine to offer stuff online. It's gonna be hard, it's a lot hard, it's hard to find stuff in here. I believe we got some discs that are supposed to be picked up. Hopefully most of our ordinances will be on those discs. I need some copies of those.
Now,
So, yeah.
here's my technological.
But yeah, that was my question, just to get a copy of at least the paper copy of the signed and dated charter.
Yeah, and I think once Kerry has a chance to see what you've got technologically, assess
Sure.
where you are. He'd be the one to be here to make that assessment, because you don't want some old guy like me telling you about what we're doing about electronics.
All right, that would be my question. Sorry.
Mr. Simmons, you're next, sir.
Would there be communication between your firm and Mr. Osborne when the fees are about to run over $3,000 a month?
Yes, we bill by the month, and he'll see it. And our assistant office manager handles all those sort of things. And he or the clerk or whoever can call her anytime they want to and say, where are we so far? He can instantaneously tell you that.
Mr. Rothwell.
My concern is just what we're talking about. We're at 9 or 10. I don't feel like 19.25 hours, what our budget is going to cover our needs. I feel like I like the idea of being billed by the hour, but I think our needs are going to be a full 19 or 20 hours a week for the issues that we've been facing over the last,
And are you
even this year.
mainly those issues being like needing to get kind of our ordinances together and charter things? Is what you're talking about,
Absolutely.
kind of like the rules?
Yeah.
Fellow from Alabama, is he still here? I thought maybe he.
But anyway, somebody, we were talking about football a while ago, if you don't have a set of rules and you've got too many of them.
Right.
But that's what you're talking about. And let me see this, before we get started on a project like that, as to what it might cost or might not, we need to see what we're looking at. Because your point's well taken. How many hours is it gonna take him to look into that? And from a background, because we got such a good background doing it for a long time, we're gonna be able to assimilate that. We've redone the charter in 6 or 7, and codes and all that stuff, probably in 6 or 7 cities. And, you know, it ranges on about, like we're talking about on the 1 to 10, we don't know that, so, but we gotta see what that is before we go further.
So looking at, Mr. Osborne, looking at, like Mr. McCray said, looking at future budgetary needs, you know, we'll assess it after, you know, he comes in this year. Is there, if we have a bill next month of $4,000, how do we pay for that?
You're not gonna have a bill, let me answer that, you ain't gonna have a bill.
Okay.
Okay. I hope the letter made it clear, I made it clear to the mayor, we're not charging over the budgetary amount per month. You know, we have to eat it if that's what's happening.
Unless we need it.
That's right.
Even then, still?
And we're not doing that to begin with, and once we get our hands around this charter, code, whatever's going on with all that, then if we tell you that we think that's gonna take estimated $15,000 over 6 months to get that done, then y'all gotta see where that $15,000 is, because we go back to Rockmart, when we were having that conversation, I didn't see an ordinance that we passed when I was looking for something. Well, it was gonna cost so much to put it together, they hadn't sent it off, they've been holding them, so we get the package deal on what it was gonna cost us. Every time you do it, there's a transactional fee, so we gotta know that too.
Well, I feel like, you know, in the beginning, there's gonna be a lot of work. This next year, there's gonna be a lot of work. I think maybe next year, we'll be coming in way under $3,000.
Well, and what a good point. We probably got 5 charters on our system at the office, and codes, and parts of them where they've redone them. We've redone them in a number of places. So now let's see what we got, and the state has 6, used to.
I'm not sure.
But they used to have 5 or 6, and you could choose one, but they're only okay, like a lot of other government things. So it probably passes. We were graded probably a 70 or so, but certainly not a 90. But we've taken those and redone them, because the state will give you that free, and you just get that electronically through the legislative council's office. So again, what you're saying is, where are we? And we don't know that. And what you're going to want from us, I think, before we start next year, is give us a report of what you think we are. Is it a 1 or a 2? Is it a 9? What's it going to take to fix it? What do you think we ought to do? Another thing, let's use automobile industry. Do we need to retool? You know, do we need to have a model change? And we're going to get one of those new ones and just use it, rather than is it going to be better for us to retool than it is for us to try to fix what we got? I don't know that. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Treasurer.
Just to piggyback on Todd, we're coming up on the budget for next year, so we have time to look at that, but also we're gonna have a little bit less, I'm assuming, between the time our last legal bill going into the next month's legal bill, where we didn't have attorneys, so a little bit over that wasn't spent last month.
Little
If we
extra.
had to have a little extra room for them to look at that. The main concerns that I have is the fact that the ordinances and the records were in such bad shape, and a lot of them are still not put together. So it's going to be getting the ordinances together, seeing which ordinances need to be done away with, which ordinances need to be updated, cleaned up, and all of the ordinances. I hope we did this, I think 13. Is 13 the last time I could find anything uploaded to municipal code? Probably 2013. So it's more that, and when the charter is, I would say, a hybrid of all of the ones on the state. There's a little bit of each
When
one.
was it done? Do you know?
2010.
It shouldn't be that bad.
It is workable. I'm just saying, my point is, it's just a lot of things are different, and it took me going to GMA to understand the difference in city manager versus administrator. Our mayor still has a lot of control where, veto and into the day-to-day where the strong manager charters do not. But the main thing I'm concerned about, like I said, is a lot of the ordinances. We have an issue coming up, and something we were supposed to approve at the last month meeting. We didn't have the meeting, we didn't have an attorney. And I have a question about that. It's going to refer to an ordinance. And I don't, nobody can locate the ordinance. So that's where I get into not being able to locate an ordinance that I kind of remember being there. And then we got to make a vote on something, and I'm kind of thinking about what that old ordinance said, and can't find it. So that is going to be an issue.
Sure.
Getting those uploaded.
And let's, that may be a fairly simple administrative thing we can help with. We'll just see, but we need to just, again, it's kind of like we just in the doctor's office, and we just taking the blood pressure so far, we ain't even started the test yet.
So if we get into something like I agree, where it's going to be a lot of money, we're spending a lot of hours, that we do have an update and a call as to where we are with that month's services.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that we know going into this next budget process, what we need to amend and when.
Tell me this, y'all, when do y'all usually do your budget stuff?
Start working on it.
Working with them.
Okay.
We're supposed to have the capital budget by the October meeting, but I don't know. That's the charter requirement. And then the first meeting of December is when the council per charter has to adopt the budget.
So the thought would be, if y'all decide to hire us, that you need from us fairly quickly kind of where we are. Yeah, okay. So if y'all make that decision and you want us to do that, at least, and I'm a huge memo person. I don't like that. I keep going on and on about it too. But I send a memo to everybody, send out to everybody, and say, here's what I think. So you have it beforehand, that we want to come to the meeting and start talking about it. But y'all need to have a chance. Okay, so y'all need to make that decision. Other questions? Appreciate the opportunity to come. If you decide you want us to represent you, you can let us know. And then if we do, then Mr. Osborne, I just suggest you call me and we talk, and then we get some electronic information together so that we also have an understanding about getting you stuff. We can start looking at what you can do. Appreciate your time very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Sir, you haven't disappointed me, and I intend to appoint you city attorney.
You got some other folks around here may want to talk about that. It's now time for the lawyers to
To leave the building.
Y'all have heard the presentation from Mr. Ray at my appointment to the city council for city attorney.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Simmons to approve. Second by Mr. Wallace. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. McCray. Sir, you have just been hired, and I think we have something that we would like to present
This will give you a little something to read, and I will be calling in the morning to talk with whoever you want me to talk with. We've got a meeting Monday night, and we've got several questions.
You've got a meeting next month?
This coming Monday night,
6:30.
Okay.
Usually on every first Monday.
Yeah, sir, I'm the
It's
person.
usually every
Mondays
first
on
Monday.
regular meetings.
No, sir, but I will be. That comes into play after they give us, tell us what we've got to do with the advertising.
Okay.
I'll call in the morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all, and have a good evening.
Thank y'all so much.
Y'all take care.
Next item on the agenda to authorize the employment of a public works and maintenance staff member for City of Temple Public Works Department, Mr. Everhart.
Well, Mr. Everhart's coming up. If you will flip back past the attorneys, you'll see a memo I've given you and some other information that you can look at as Mr. Everhart gives you a report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're recommending that Mr. Dustin Somerville be hired for the public works position.
I'm sorry, I was just said the name, I was like, Dustin or Justin?
Dustin.
Is he here?
Is he here? No. No, he's not. We interviewed 3 candidates, and Mr. Somerville seemed like the best candidate for the city of Temple. Mr. Osborne has provided you a brief synopsis of his background. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read it. At this time, I'll take any questions.
No, me personally, from now on, I would prefer seeing whoever I'm gonna approve to be hired. I think if they're going to apply for a job, it should be the person when they are being hired.
That recommendation is duly noted.
That's me personally.
Okay, I was unable to sit in on the interview, but I am taking Mr. Osborne and Mr. Everhart's suggestion, and so I am appointing Mr. Somerville to the position of Public Works Department. What is your wishes?
I will make a motion to approve.
I will second.
Got a motion, Mr. Ransom, to approve it, second with Mr. Simmons. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried, sir. Item number 3, the termination of the city's agreement with FOCO, Centers for Certain Information Technologies, by exercising the provisions in paragraph 11 of said agreement by giving written notice at least 30 days in advance, November 1st annual renewal date. Mr. Osborne.
We have reported to you on a couple of past occasions that staff was not using the services of FOGO, and when they had tried to use the services, they had not been satisfactory. And as the mayor has mentioned, and as we had reported to you several weeks ago, we were coming up on the annual renewal, and if we opted out, then we didn't have any any loose ends we hadn't tied, didn't have any other obligations. And I have given you a copy of the renewal or a copy of the contract. I did in talking with Ms. Ransom, she reminded me as we went back and actually did a transcription of that part of your meeting August the 1st, where Mr. Perry basically said to let it die, but he indicated it wasn't any, you could just let it die, but that's not what your agreement says.
Well, I thought he was talking about the other, y'all might have had it wrong in the minutes. He was talking to us about the
I
other.
think you're correct. I think he was thinking, the mayor and I talked about this, like QS1, is we had said that we didn't need to take any action. But what I can tell you, and you've seen this, if you take affirmative action and terminate, we can, don't have any penalties, otherwise we're ready for another 12 months.
I got one more question that didn't get answered, but that was part of what tripped me up, is in the August meeting minutes that we haven't approved yet, when you do refer to FOGO in those minutes, it says with an August 31st deadline. That's what it said, there's an August 31st deadline. So now we've moved to a November 1st, so which is it? Is we already in trouble with this, or what's the August 31st
No.
deadline?
Basically, I was looking at getting it done. That was a memo I think I did back in July, and was trying to get it wrapped up
No, I mean,
sufficiently
the
in
minutes say,
advance.
like the motion says with an August 31st deadline, it's in the, is it like the agenda, so I thought it was something that was there for a reason?
I would say that in terms of specifically, I was just trying to go ahead and get it done. If you look at the agreement itself, you see that it started on November the 1st of 2014, and we have to be 30 days in advance of November 1st.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we terminate the,
Got a motion, Mr. Bracknell, to terminate this agreement with FOGO. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Walden. Any discussion? Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hear a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Mr. Bracknell, second by Mr. Simmons. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.